Hi, I'm Peter Capaldi. I play the Doctor, and you're watching EMS Productions.
Hello everybody and welcome along to today's video, where today I just wanted to give you guys a few random thoughts I was having on Twice Upon a Time, the Christmas special this year, having also read the kind of leaked some early synopsis for the episode as well. Yeah, just to give a few thoughts on what I'm hoping to see for this Christmas special. So of course Twice Upon a Time is going to be a multi-Doctor story featuring the 12th and the 1st Doctors together for the very first time, the 1st Doctor back for the... Well, the first time since 1983, I guess you'd say, since the 5 Doctors way back when, but not even played by William Hartnell anyway. And of course played by David Bradley this time round, so that's going to be a fantastic sort of opportunity to see them kind of face off against each other. And it seems we're going to get a huge amount of referencing to the 10th Planet, William Hartnell's The First Doctor's final story. And it looks like we're kind of going to see how the First Doctor regenerates. Maybe they're going to add a little bit more canon into exactly what's going on with that, because it always seems that he just kind of gets a bit worn out, collapses and regenerates, so maybe we'll actually find out a little bit more about what causes his body to wear a bit thin. This old body's wearing a bit thin, I believe he says, and so I think that'd be nice to add a little bit more to the canon of the show there. I know that would probably be a little bit controversial, and it's pretty standard Stephen Moffat to do that kind of thing, and certainly wouldn't surprise me if he did, but I think, yeah, it'd be just nice to add a little bit more sort of explanation to that 50 years later. It's also nice that we're going to get at least a cameo appearance of the First Doctor's companions as well. Ben and Polly are going to reappear, not as their original actors, but having them back in the show alongside the First Doctor there is going to be quite a nice moment, presumably recreating scenes from the 10th Planet. So you wonder, again, if they're going to have the Mondasian Sidemen back from the Series 10 finale to be able to reuse them in recreated scenes from the 10th Planet as well. There's lots of sort of interesting opportunities there to kind of recreate a lot of moments, significant moments from the 10th Planet, which is a pretty good story and a kind of a very iconic story, certainly. Reading that synopsis that we got leaked, it's interesting that it says about 2 Doctors refusing to face regeneration. So that maybe implies that with the First Doctor he's there in reality that we never knew about back in 1966, but he actually doesn't want to regenerate for some reason that we maybe will find out in this story. But I can't imagine they'd write that so blatantly if it wasn't the case that he didn't want to regenerate or something, or he was refusing to stop it. Obviously we know the 12th Doctor is, having seen the end of the Doctor Falls, how much he just does not want to change again, will not change again. It's interesting that we seem to have the similar thing for the First Doctor, so I think that's something that can be played really well, and I'm sure sort of towards the end of the episode we might kind of get the both Doctors kind of convincing themselves that it's time to change, it's time to go and regenerate, and maybe almost kind of helping each other out with their regenerations to some degree, which will be quite, I think, a really nice scene to see. And will we get a recreation of the First Doctor's regeneration as well, I wonder? Would they actually sort of use the original kind of similar effects? I mean, I'm sure they do that scene in black and white again rather than reintroduce it in colour. Although interestingly, some of the shots in the trailer did show sort of scenes from the 10th Planet in colour, so maybe we will kind of go back there and it will actually all be done in colour again, which would be quite interesting to see. This episode does also, of course, feature Mark Gatiss as some old sort of British Army captain, as we seem to be caught in the middle of a World War I battlefield for somehow that seems to be frozen in time or something like that. I mean, there's very little sort of detail at the moment other than that 1-minute trailer and a couple of quotes to actually understand quite what's going on. But certainly, yeah, Mark Gatiss seems to be, to some degree, the companion of the episode as far as we can tell. I mean, it looks like there's going to be a fairly small kind of cast list overall, with essentially the First Doctor, Ben and Polly, the 12th Doctor, Mark Gatiss' character, and Bill turning up at some point. Other than that, it doesn't seem like there's any more cast, at least that we know of at this stage. So I think it probably means it will be more of a sort of character affair that we often see from Stephen Moffat's kind of... whereas maybe in the RTD days it would have been the biggest cast you could find, massive explosions, alien invasion, it'll probably be potentially more of a sort of understated, underplayed kind of more quiet affair. I'm sure there will be some big moments, exciting moments, explosions, and kind of some darker moments as well, I'm sure, but I think it may be a lot more about kind of the relationship between the 2 Doctors to a large degree, and kind of them playing off each other and kind of, yeah, convincing themselves that it's time to change. And of course, at some point we will get Jodie Whittaker appearing for the very first time as the 13th Doctor, which is certainly something I'm really looking forward to, even if some of you aren't. And it seems most likely she'll just have the usual 30 seconds at the end. I had seen some rumours that that the 12th Doctor has actually already regenerated or something, and that we'll sort of see it flashback to that happening, or something. I thought I saw a great fan theory about that for the Doctor it's similar to the thing we had with Bill, where we saw, or in some shots Bill was seen normally even though she was actually a Cyberman. Are we actually going to be seeing through most of this episode the 12th Doctor as the 12th Doctor even though it's actually the 13th Doctor? would be quite an interesting concept to play with. I mean, it probably won't happen, but it sounds like quite an interesting concept. I mean, some of the other things that they might look to address in this episode would be the 12th Doctor's very, very, very first appearance back in the Day of the Doctor when he goes on his way to save Gallifrey. Will we get a sort of cameo of that? In reality, it is actually sort of what we thought was the first shot is actually of his final moments before regeneration. I mean, there's a little bit of a continuity issue with his hair, because even though it's a very close, tight shot, you can kind of tell that his hair isn't very long compared to what it is now, the absolute crazy massive hair that he's got going, which I love that sort of hairstyle he's got going, where it's just kind of all over the shot, massive hair, compared to Series 8 and the sort of Deep Breath when there's kind of, it's so short and there's nothing there, and that seemed to be the kind of cut he had in the Day of the Doctor. So slight continuity, but I'm sure we can gloss over that just to see that scene readdressed. And I guess the other main sort of significant thing that may or may not happen would be a cameo appearance from Jenna Coleman and Clara Oswald in this story. I know that some people are sort of completely against it. Personally, for me, I would be fairly disappointed if we don't see her for a little cameo appearance. I feel she is the most important character to the 12th Doctor, certainly the most important character sort of to the Doctor's life in the last few years, having done a series with Matt Smith, most of a series, and 2 full series with Peter Capaldi. She was around for a long time, and I think it would just be disappointing if she didn't even just have a very brief cameo appearance, even if it's just like 20 seconds, just to kind of see her one last time. Maybe for the 12th Doctor to kind of just remember her in his final moments, sort of properly see and remember her before he regenerates or something like that, I think would be really nice. But I know people are a bit mixed on whether they want to see her back, but I personally think I'd be really disappointed if we didn't just get that one last interaction between them, or at least her appearance. Apart from that, looking to the sort of 12th Doctor's regeneration scene itself, I don't really know quite how I want it to play out. I mean, I kind of hope it's a sort of really sad affair. I'm sure the Doctor will kind of go through this episode trying to fight off the regeneration, then something will happen towards the end and he'll realise there's no point in doing this anymore, it's time for me to change, go on and be someone else sort of thing, and continue on the journey, the new adventures in a new body, because this body is unfortunately finished and dying. So it's going to be a sad affair. If you're only sort of a fan of Peter Capaldi's Doctor, I'm sure it's going to be a painfully sad affair. Just to see the end of Peter Capaldi, because he's been, at least as far as I'm concerned, such a fantastic Doctor through these last 3 seasons. And it's just unfortunate that we only get 3 seasons and we're never going to be able to see Peter again, because he certainly kind of hinted in interviews and stuff that he sort of wants to stay away from the show for a few years now. And given that he's not exactly the youngest of Doctors that we've had, you feel like it's going to need a fairly soon anniversary special for him to appear in, because he's what, 60 odd now. Of course, he could still go another 20-30 years, who knows, but you feel like if he's going to turn up again in Doctor Who for a sort of anniversary special, it's kind of got to be maybe the 60th anniversary in 2023 or something like that he's actually going to turn up in, because past that he will be getting on a little bit. And as was shown by the Day of the Doctor, they didn't really want to include lots of the really old classic Doctors. But that's another debate for another video. Probably the other thing that I haven't mentioned about Twice Upon a Time again is the return of Bill. She's coming back for this story. I don't know quite in what capacity she's going to be back. Of course, she's essentially a sort of flying around set of atoms that you can fly around time and space and do whatever now. So it'll be interesting how the Doctor kind of notices, realises that, and how they kind of react and play off each other for those last, how much of a sort of element of the story she'll actually be in. We know this will be her final story. She's not going to be in Series 11. It will be a complete fresh start for the new era of the show, essentially. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how long she's around for in this episode, whether she's actually involved in the Doctor's regeneration scene, if she is kind of there to see him regenerate, or if she's left by then and gone off on her own new adventures or something like that. And as kind of dark as it sounds, I kind of prefer it when the Doctor's sort of all alone to regenerate, like with the 10th Doctor. It just kind of makes it all the more sad and depressing and a bit miserable, but I think kind of fits the bill for that sort of an episode, that the Doctor is all alone. All his friends have gone off kind of to newer, better things, well, usually, to newer, better things, and it just leaves the Doctor, unfortunately, in the end, it just leaves him all on his own to regenerate. And so it's sort of, yeah, as depressing and dark as that sounds, that's kind of what I'd like to see, is Peter Capaldi kind of on his own in that TARDIS, because he has to regenerate in the TARDIS, apparently. I mean, that's the one thing I'd be quite nice, is to see the Doctor regenerate outside of the TARDIS, because that has, well, only ever happened, I think, for the 3rd Doctor's regeneration, when he was sat just outside the TARDIS next to it to see regenerating. But certainly in New Who, pretty much every single regeneration, other than I guess the 8th Doctor into the War Doctor, has happened in the... something like that would be quite nice, just to do something a bit different and have him regenerate outside of the TARDIS. But there we go, guys. That's about it. And from everything I know or can sort of theorise about this episode coming up at Christmas, despite it being filmed like 2.5 months ago, we still don't really know anything about it, and we've still got 3 months to go until it airs, which is a bit depressing as well. And we don't know anything about the plot. It's the key point. We don't know what... I mean, it seems that there isn't really a kind of villain as such. It's probably more of a kind of time is the enemy sort of thing that we've had a few times in the Moffat era. So that'll be interesting, but I don't think there's going to be a proper sort of, villain for the story that we often get. But yes, there we go, guys. Do let me know in your comments below what your theories are about Twice Upon a Time, what you'd like to see happen in Peter Capaldi's final story, whether you want any cameo returns or anything like that. Just, let me know whatever you think about the Christmas special coming up. But other than that, remember to like the video, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you again very, very soon for another video. Goodbye!